Hello, fabulous fans, superstars of my dear friend Nadiya Shah. I am Yuriria Robles and I welcome you to the predictions for each sign for the month of March 2025. Congratulations to the Pisces and Aries who will have a birthday this month. Remember to check the predictions for your lunar sign, the ascendant sign, as well as the solar sign. Let's start by listening to a general introduction to the most important astrological conditions. We are about to experience the end of one of the most intense Piscean periods in recent years. March arrives with the end and beginning of planetary cycles, inferior conjunctions, retrograde motions, and eclipses. In short, it is a month of profound transformation. Let me explain. We welcome the month with a group of planets in Pisces, accompanying the Sun, Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node. So we enter as if into a fog that is only traversable with care, slowly following the light of inner consciousness and faith in the universal good. We begin with the conjunction of Mercury and Neptune with the North Node, which brings an intense desire for fantasies, for imagining, but also a source of confusion that feeds itself. Recognizing, listing, deciphering data and concrete facts will not be possible for a long time. While the South Node is in Virgo, the corroboration or the verification of facts, circumstances, and reports will not be heeded and will rather be minimized. In fact, with the North Node in Pisces, it is time to consider the hunger and taste for fantasies, stories, conspiracies, and magic. It would be useful to put our minds into artistic creations. This energy can indeed increase our creativity. By using it, we can find paths of imaginative self-expression that can reach high levels of development and be emblematic of the art of our time. We are facing the confrontation of opposite elements, water and fire, which means that it is the key moment where we can realize that from our emotional depth, depression, or dark night of the soul, we can emerge thanks to the light of the spirit, the heat of the inner and spiritual fire, and also the recognition of divinity in all existence. This confrontation is not easy, and it is recognized as the ultimate test of spiritual development. For now, we have stopped at the expression of our feelings and sentiments. It is enough to express what one feels to justify positions, situations, possibilities, and barriers. However, the fire will call for action, for the expression of the spirit with all its strength, beyond dramas and victimization. This fight will be repeated for another year from now on, because the planets will advance to Aries and then return to Pisces to stop, and then finally they will definitely enter the first sign of the Zodiac, leading us towards a spiritually active path at its best, or towards a war in the name of divinity that weakens us all. The decision is not at a collective level, but in each one of us. This is the freedom to choose what we commit to. It really depends on each person. Pisces is traditionally ruled by Jupiter, which is in the sign of Gemini, which makes us feel that growth is in communication, in relationships, and in the transfer of data, thoughts, and theories. But if we already said that at the beginning of the month, Mercury, which rules Jupiter for now, will lead us to confusion and a multiplicity of truths, not just one per head, but as many as each one of us can imagine at the speed of the mind. Jupiter himself is in a difficult dialogue with Saturn in Pisces, which makes us see that everything we read, recognize, or learn about is only conjecture, and that there are so many options that we can hardly contain and channel them, much less achieve a deep understanding of everything that is happening every day. This difficult dialogue between expansion and growth on the one hand, and the ordering and discipline of the imagination on the other, will persist for several months, We would all do well to engage in creative, artist, or spiritual work with full dedication to make the most of this confrontation. Even with the advance of Saturn to Aries and Jupiter to Cancer in the second half of the year, we are faced with the need to accommodate how we will grow with order and discipline. The grouping of planets in Pisces that began with the new moon on the 27th of last month indicates the end of a 13-year period where Neptune was in this sign, encouraging all the Piscean themes from the expression of feelings, emphasizing subjectivity, highlighting imagination, highlighting altered states of consciousness, and on the other hand, evasion, victimization, and drama. So now is a time of deep review and condensation of everything achieved in this period. There is no way to extend the comfort zone. Conditions are about to change radically. Let us remember that the truths on our human plane are subjective and respond to different personal visions that do not always and rather can hardly agree. Now, fighting among ourselves for a single way of thinking is frankly useless and even painful. What we can do is respect our differences in the understanding that we are all creations of the superior being. Also, at the beginning of the month, the moon is already in Aries, about to meet with Venus, because with both of them, the desire for change is ignited, which with Aries implies launching forward to conquer something that for now we can clearly say is the inner light, like when you advance in the fog. No matter how much light is projected, the beam of light turns back and does not let you see what is in front. It is only by turning inward that we can discover what we have hidden by the force of our feelings and that we long to put aside to move forward and see what we really are. Now the planets in Aries are ruled by Mars, which for now still in Cancer, although already in its direct motion, but it will not leave this sign for the entire month. So let's use the sword of Mars to cut attachments to resentments, dramas, and the past that can slow down our performance. It is a matter of doing something physically, not just thinking about it, since it requires involving the body. Establishing a physical and spiritual discipline at the same time can become a way of life that allows us to witness the facts from our own center, away from fear and the demand for external change. Mars also rules Chiron, so it indicates an effort to recover from having been hurt in the past, when we wanted to do something, when we proposed a conquest and were hurt or embarrassed by the initiative shown. Now we need to forgive what happened without returning to resentment or drama. There is no point in going back to the past or expecting an apology from others. The essential thing is to forgive ourselves for the situation and express understanding and love for ourselves. Stand up for yourself and act without drama. Right now, Mars in Cancer is ruled by the moon, and we would expect that the effect of the eclipses that will occur this month, both the moon in Virgo and the last eclipse in Aries, will emphasize the extreme volatility of the physical and emotional energy that this long stay of Mars has brought to our consciousness. The good news is that at the end of the month, it will establish a harmonious negotiation with Saturn, leading us to a smooth routine to respond with maturity to what is coming. As for the full moon, which is a lunar eclipse on the 14th of the month at 0:54 a.m., Mexico Central Time, it will be visible throughout America. It belongs to the family of Ceres 123, whose first eclipse was on August 16, 1087. A deep review of the effects of this eclipse is to point out a political and cultural confrontation which will require each of us to have a new vision of what we consider facts and concrete data. But above all, a new attitude of service, not from an individual perspective, but from the understanding that we live in a collective within others to infinity, and that individuality is only an illusion. Therefore, we must seek a new balance between our analysis and our feelings to better understand the new historical era that has begun. Between the eclipses, the Sun will enter Aries on March 20 at 3:01 a.m. Mexico City time, beginning spring, emphasizing for 3 months work ethics, physical and mental health, new social relationships, as well as a capacity for adaptation and immunity. At this moment, Venus and Mercury are in Aries, both in retrograde motion, which means that we desire and think about conquests, about expressing will, dynamism, drive, and spirit of initiative. With these planets in this sign, initiation and identity are emphasized. It is about developing the personality and its relationship with the environment. It manifests in coherence, the desire for command, passion, and ambition. In the non-coherent side, they manifest as impatience, haste, and anger. Retrogrades return us to situations that we have recently experienced or even previously, and must present new solutions to release learning or assume the consequences of the choices made. As regards Mercury in retrograde motion included in the process described between water and fire, it is our mind that must free itself from emotional water and the anger of the spirit, to access a literal cleansing of feelings and thoughts that have not given us the desired result. Regarding the retrograde motion of Venus, the objective is to recognize what truly fills the spirit, being sincere with the desires that consume us and can lead us to extreme situations. It's just the effort to recognize when we have acted out of resentment, and that now it is not a matter of living in what was, but in what we can do now to achieve a compromise between what we want and the obligations we have to attend to. Spring is a time of renewal, precisely what each one of us will experience together. The challenge is to overcome impatience and fear of the unknown, to establish with character and time new conditions that for now are not clear. The solar eclipse that occurs on the new moon on the 29th in Aries at 4:57 a.m. is also the last eclipse in this sign in the series of the axis Aries Libra. It will be visible in the Northwest, Africa, Europe, and Northern Russia. It indicates that by acting for safety and protection, different circumstances will be encountered that we were supposed to take care of. In addition, the eclipse is ruled by Mars, which at that time is maintaining a difficult conversation between what hurts us and what we can do or cannot do. Let us remember that the first thing to do is to forgive, specifically for our own good. The eclipse belongs to the Saros family 149, whose first eclipse was August 16, 1664, which has historically indicated acts of separatism, dissent, and failed attempts of political reorganization. Let's keep in mind that eclipses are accelerators of new situations, which bring about the conjugation of different forces, and although they are predictable, they are not controllable. So calm is suggested, and actions that encourage it are even more advisable. Just before Neptune enters Aries for the first time on the 31st, it will meet with Mercury and Venus in Pisces, and before that with Saturn and the North Node. From a deeply emotional vision, we will now take the step towards action as a kind of offering. We will put on the table what we must overcome, what inspires us to move forward and achieve new conquests from the spirit. Now let's move on to the vision of what is coming from the perspective of each of the signs. Remember that consulting the sign of your ascendant precises the prediction, and with the sign of the moon, we will understand why we feel the way we do. Pisces, congratulations to the Pisces who have a birthday this month. You are now more Pisces than ever and have received a long and intensive course in your essential characteristics to the point of making them desirable by all. Let us remember that we exist in an eternal cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, expressed through the rhythms of the natural world. On the one hand, we recognize that we are mortal, that we have insatiable appetites and blind instinctive needs, and on the other, we possess an immortal spirit which is eternally reborn. We are precisely on the verge of a rebirth and transformation that until now we had imagined. So, with your deployed force, concentrate everything that has been achieved and present a condensation in concrete form, whether it be painting, writing, photograph, some form of creative expression. In the face of the struggle of the water element with the fire element, maintain deep confidence in a higher intelligence wiser than any human being. It is a time to overcome self-destructive passivity and the powerful primary emotions that flooded your consciousness, just as the great tides flood the earth. If the water element has strengthened you, integrate all the lessons of depth, empathy, compassion, and subjectivity for the years to come, where you will have to teach all these values. The presence of the North Node in your sign until the middle of next year will force you to try to satisfy this desire for universality and understanding of everything you have experienced with Neptune in Pisces. You will not feel completely satisfied, but that is the nature of the North Node. Remember that it is a bottomless pit that comes to open a series of experiences whose development will unfold and you will really understand deeply later on. Accept the profound emotional change that you will experience from now on, especially due to the passage of this North Node accompanied by lunar eclipses in your sign. Saturn in Pisces brings you the task of arranging all the lessons you have received, and you can now sort them by separating reality from fantasy. Like any container that is limited, consciousness also needs limits. So for now, discard fantasy, since it clouds everything, and channel it towards creative, artistic, and spiritual endeavors. The essential thing is not to confuse magic and imagination with reality. Creating from now on will be more important. Avoid postponing this work. In the conversations you have from now on, think that they are to feed your ideas and they are numerous. There is no way to stop the flow of information. You do not have to know everything, nor can you give universal meaning to what you hear or perceive for now. That will take time. Take the advantage of it. In the area of your values and resources, there is a desire to move that will do you good to review. It is not possible for you to stay still, I know, but the essential thing is that you review what you have considered valuable in the past, how you have managed your money, and what you have produced. The retrograde motions of Mercury and Venus and the eclipse on the 29th will bring new circumstances. All these experiences are affected by the movement of Mars still in Cancer, which has brought a creative renewal to your life, and you must not have suffered it as much as being Pisces yourself. However, from the point of view of your values, there is a demand for you to cut off the past desires and passions and thus try to see things from a new point of view. Remember that you have Pluto in the area that forces you to review what you fear the most. I can tell you that it is reasoning, theories, so for many years you will have to relate to ways of thinking that concern political visions and group ideologies that at first glance are homogeneous and cold. Even so, you have to make room for them in your conscience. On the other hand, Uranus in Taurus helps you recognize that changes and innovations are for your greatest benefit, and it will still be harmonious for you to receive them and assimilate them in your conscience and in your life. The full moon on the 14th is a lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo, your opposite sign and complementary. So it is time to take stock of what your partner thinks, even if you have to listen to criticism and accusations that require precision that you won't be able to satisfy. It's not time for data and dates, but it is time to change how you treat your partners and business partner, and it's not time to neglect them either. Spring is always a challenge for you because it forces you to move and get out of the dream state that is your nature. For now, old loves and relationships will return, and you will review pending issues and debts. Try to distinguish who you can count on and with whom you need to have a closure. The last 5 days of your sign, from the 14th to the 20th, Mercury will be retrograde, which will lead you to put your accounts and budgets in order. Pay attention to them so that you are ready from then on. With the new moon on the 29th, there will be a solar eclipse in Aries that illuminates the changes in the area of your resources that I had mentioned for you. Be prepared to accept them and give yourself time to assimilate them, free of resentment and anger for what was no longer. The new will surprise you more than you imagine. On the 31st, Neptune will enter Aries for the first time, which will inspire you to value even more what you produce, provided that from now on and for a long time you do not exaggerate and see that in reality you have to land what you imagine in ways that pay off, and you can monetize all your imagination with concrete and at the same time inspiring products. Aries, congratulations to all the Aries who have a birthday this month. You receive March with the crescent moon in your sign, which enables you to take action, but with the idea that you should repeat like mantra, slow down, I'm in a hurry. And I say this because the planets that are in Pisces have not yet reached your sign. Those that are already in Aries will return to Pisces. And as the icing on the cake, you will have the last eclipse of this series in your sign on the 29th. During the last 18 months, you have been at the beginning of a preparation for the unexpected circumstances that have brought about situations in you whose effect you did not expect, and in an extraordinary way you will be deeply inspired to undertake conquests, achievements, new heights, and independence. However, you already know that in the fight between water and fire, the important thing is not to succumb to the battle in fear, nor to believe yourself invisible by exposing yourself too much. Not in vain, you had to face Chiron in your sign, and for 3 more years he will demand that you be wise in the face of what is presented to you and learn the lesson. Know how to forgive, and above all, do not get discouraged. As for the negotiation between expansion and limitation, be ready for those within your close circle to fill you with ideas which you do not have to resolve now. You only have to write them, register them, to consult them later after the first impression of how big the projects may be has passed. Mars, your ruling sign, is still in Cancer and will remain there for the entire month, although now in a direct manner. So remember that you have the commitment to cut off dramas and resentments with your family, from them towards you or vice versa. There will be issues that are revealed from the ancestral past that have to be released so that everyone feels lighter towards what is good, and so they do not have to defend something blindly, and above all, have clarity about what is worth keeping and what is worth discarding. The full moon brings a lunar eclipse in Virgo in the house of transformations and endings, certainly ending one era to open another more idealistic, but also full of challenges to solve. I know that for now nothing can be specified except the fact that you have to cultivate being in your center, have integrity and strength of character to calm down and not to go out chasing shadows and ghosts. With spring comes an exercise of review and commitment to act for yourself. I told you a while ago calmly without rushing, which is already a challenge just because you can't throw yourself into it with all your strength. Right now, marathon is better than a race or sprint that wears you down in one day. There are no clear limits, neither now nor even when Saturn moves into your sign, which doesn't mean that you don't move, but that you have to do it strategically, well thought out, anticipating as much as possible what you have the strength and commitment to sustain. As for the solar eclipse on the new moon, the 29th, the last one in your sign for this period, culminates changes to your person. So get ready to integrate a program of reconstruction or personal grooming that allows you to reach new heights. Is like a high performance athlete does, training a little every day without losing the rhythm. You don't have to wear yourself out at the first attempt. Think of it as a program like from one Olympic Games to the next ones, and yes, for 4 years. In addition, the conjunction of Mercury and Venus, both in their retrograde processes, leads you to review your loves, grooming, appearances, and tastes. That is for Venus and for Mercury. The review should support you to check your projects, communications, and thoughts so that you do not improvise. And if you do and make a mistake, you can go back and correct what is necessary. Pluto in Aquarius brings you powerful and strong friends who will inspire you with your ideas and proposals. Uranus in Taurus will change your environment even more, your relationships with siblings and cousins. So, as I told you, do not get nervous and trust that you will assimilate the changes. You have time for it. Finally, Neptune enters your sign for the first time on the 31st. There you will begin to notice that you feel inspired to take a warrior stance and with a need to assimilate the light of the spirit. On the incoherent side, there is a risk of believing that war is sacred and therefore valid. It has never been like this and has always cost many sacrifices. Hopefully, on this occasion, we will turn it into a personal conquest of light and consciousness. Taurus, welcome to March. You have all the planets in Pisces on your side in the form of friends, groups, and hopes that inspire you, accompany, and balance you with their sense of magic and imagination. As long as you continue to adapt to the changes that Uranus has been imposing on you, preparing you to be more flexible and adaptable. Also remember that Pluto in Aquarius has arrived to demand a transformation in the professional and social area. Now the planets in Pisces bring important changes for your friends and your hopes. First, in communications, loves, ideals, and desires from the past return so that you have to recognize that they touch fears and doubts about what happened. And as if heaven were listening to you, Mercury and Venus return so that you can make clarifications from the heart, from your inner truth. Take advantage of this return to be brave and express what you really want and feel. You have the freedom to accept or reject what is proposed to you, except that the desire to connect, to belong to something bigger and more important will not go away. You have to know that it is a unique opportunity in life and that taking advantage of these lessons is something that will give an important renewal to the meaning of your existence. Whatever you decide, there will be, of course, the commitment to fulfill what you promise this month. Then, right at the end of the month, Neptune will advance towards Aries, and there you will have to touch the truth of your fear of moving to conquer what you want. And although for now we are talking about a few months, the truth is that you will have to search during this time and later on for the spiritual reason that will allow you to recognize within yourself what gives you value and leads you to achieve a deep connection with your spirit. Then it is Saturn that will advance towards the area of the institutions in which you work, hidden enemies and fears that are not clear to you. These are precisely the people who will lead you to recognize what it is that you have to overcome: laziness and apathy. It will also be for a few months, and then you will rest or take a breath, because the fight that you will have to face with yourself will be established for some time, not with others. Do not confuse yourself or project. It is a personal issue. It is important that you recognize the method with which you will focus spiritually, how you will find answers that will make you mature and really move towards new professional and economical conquests. Because Uranus will also advance towards Gemini, moving the house of your resources, so that you use technology, communication, and commerce to create those resources. The difficult conversation going on between Jupiter and Saturn requires an effort to integrate light conversations with maturity, even if they make you desperate or touch sensitive points. It is necessary to listen to everyone and not get personal on anyone, only from a balanced position. Will you be able to later realize what you heard and what was asked of you? As for the permanence of Mars in Cancer, during the whole month in the area of your communication, your brothers, cousins, and neighbors, it will be very good for you to go out for a walk with them, to exercise, so that you do not get angry because of complaints, resentments from the past, and tantrums that were stuck, and that it is time to cut it all off without losing the relationships. On the full moon of the 14th, there is a lunar eclipse in Virgo that brings harmonious changes for you in the area of your children and loves. It will be a period of changes that will help you to be freer from the care that until now they have needed, so that you can dedicate yourself to your spiritual growth. With the entry of the Sun into Aries, spring arrives, which, to be honest, makes you a little uncomfortable because you have to start moving. On this occasion, there will be space to review everything that no longer serves you, as if you were letting go of the emotional ballast, so that from now on you move quickly and lightly, an attitude that will be necessary from now on. The solar eclipse at the new moon on the 29th will be the last one in the Aries-Libra axis that has been changing the working conditions for you for the last year and a half. You already know in which areas you have to be brave and start moving, although you still have to forgive yourself for having delayed or avoided the movement. Assimilate and accept the lessons, since it is not possible to avoid the move anyway now. Gemini, when Mercury is in Pisces next to the North Node, it will not be possible for you to find the truth, concrete facts, or theories to hold on to. The truth is that it leads your mind to fantasy, political, or artistic ideals, and maybe also to confusion, deception, and lies. As soon as it moves to Aries, you will feel more active, but for a few days, since it will stop at 9 degrees just before the eclipse on the 14th, which means that even if you think it is time to act, the truth is that you have to deal with pending matters that need to be clarified before moving forward in April. In addition, it will meet with the retrograde motion of Venus, which will include loves and desires that come to make you aware of what you want to develop professionally and socially. However, we have to warn you to be very careful in the decisions you make, because it will be presented to you as something splendid, a unique opportunity, and only if it is an artistic development will it be useful, because the truth is that it will seem bigger than it is, and it is possible that all you will be left with will be the commitment and discipline that what you choose implies. Of course, you will have given yourself the pleasure of living an extraordinary love or fantasy. It is accompanied by the eclipse in Virgo on that day, the second in the series on the axis of service. You will now be working for something that goes beyond you. It may be an artistic, political, or spiritual goal. Think very carefully and give yourself time to decide whether to enter or not, because you hope that it will lead you to success, and it will do so to the extent that you are intelligent and calm in making decisions and avoiding haste. From extreme emotion, you will later move on to spiritual inspiration, to the enthusiasm that moving will give you, since Uranus will enter Gemini later in the year, and with it your capacity for innovation, mobility, and thinking in general will multiply. More so by the presence of Pluto in Aquarius, which will bring you new ideas and powerful contacts abroad. As with Neptune in Aries, all these will renew your groups of friends and, most importantly, your hopes. For now, try to contain, or rather write down, all the ideas, proposals, connections, and contacts you make, because they will be very important in the next 12 years. Along with the planetary movements that are coming, you have to be prepared. That is why I insist that you do not get emotionally involved, but rather clear up confusion and misunderstandings, so that you have the freedom to move at ease later. With Mars still in Cancer, you have to take care of your resources and try to invest in what you need to improve your professional and work performance. Even if your friends do not support you for now, it does not matter, they will do so later. Do not take notice and do not be hurt by what they think. With the Sun entering Aries, we expect a more loving energy from your friends. Set limits on the time you spend with them, and instead focus on seeking spiritual ideals that lead you to see that sincere and honest communication is better than fighting and entering into every battle. For the solar eclipse on the new moon on the 29th, which is precisely in Aries, you will realize what really remains, and certain situations that are not useful will definitely leave your life. You will move on, don't worry. Great adventures and growth are coming. Cancer. As eclipse season approaches, the effect of the moon, your ruling planet, has an even more unstable influence than usual. So on this occasion, on March the 14th, the full moon eclipse occurs in Virgo, and the solar eclipse on the 29th is the last one on the axis Aries Libra. Then the changes are emphasized for you for the following reasons. As the eclipse season closes in Aries Libra, you can see that it brought events in relation to legal or diplomatic relations that changed the way you perceive justice and agreement between everyone. On the other hand, the warrior spirit that has been under review increased its desire for action, and that forces you to act outside of your comfort zone. Now, with the eclipses on the Virgo Pisces axis, you will assimilate the energy better, since you and everyone will have to understand that serving and helping serves everyone, not just oneself. The desire is to integrate into a totality, into an energy that envelops existence, whether idealistic, romantic, spiritual, or political. The confrontation we feel is because the water element will no longer be represented by the planets, as they are moving on to the fire element. Traditionally, it is the most important step for the spirit, because we are required to leave drama and victimization behind and move on to action with courage. Sometimes the latter is confused with fighting for fear or having what we have earned taken away from us, and this is precisely what is most difficult for you, because by nature You protect what is familiar and what you consider yours. Prepare for change. With a group of planets in Pisces, you will enjoy relationships, ideas, and loves. Even people or situations from the past that were left pending may return. You will know what is worth doing, closing definitively or starting over with a blank slate, which means that the decision implies not going back to what happened on a mental or emotional level. The discipline imposed by the difficult dialogue between Jupiter and Saturn is not less because it will persist even when both planets move on to Cancer and Aries. Discipline consists of being proactive, emotionally organized, allowing yourself to be mature and stable so that when you do act, you do so from your center, free of resentment and bitterness. When the planets move to Aries at the end of the month, you will feel more pressure, especially because Mars is stopped in the middle of your sign and will remain there all month, which can make you feel restless and even angry. But in reality, you can use the energy to cut off what hurts you, not people or situations, but within yourself, so that you feel freer of the pain of the past. Even with the arrival of the spring, you will feel that the pressure increases because the obligation to take care of what is known is enormous. I insist, cut off the emotions that weaken you. They are due most of the time to something that happened long time ago. If you change your perspective, you will be able to see things differently. I recognize that it will be an internal struggle because there are things that come back so that you take them into account. Perhaps because they are valuable, but also so that you can see that they are useless. This is due to the conjunction of Mercury and Venus in retrograde motion. The solar eclipse on the new moon on the 29th in Aries will make the necessary changes for you. Remember that eclipses are accelerators of circumstances that have to change. It is possible that the changing circumstances are incomprehensible to you because Pluto has moved into Aquarius, and this has revolutionized the socio-political conditions in the world. Although you are already accustomed to the Uranian surprises that always make you uncomfortable, even though they liberate, assimilating everything will be quite a challenge. Adding the passage of Neptune for the first time into Aries on the 31st. Leo, we are on the threshold of a profound change that will be beneficial for you as long as you assimilate as soon as possible that Pluto's entry into Aquarius should inspire you to be a better leader, generous, and aware of the needs of the group. Because if you get into a power struggle with your partner, with your associates, and with everyone, you will not enjoy your growth. Get ready and don't get into useless fights. I know it won't be easy because Mars is going to move into Leo next month and will once again poke you in the ribs so that you react. Remember to be a warrior of the spirit with the temperament and character to choose which battles to face and which ones you let pass. Because you don't have to take ownership of them all, only the important ones, and there is where character is needed. The passage of the planets from a water sign into a fire sign will be beneficial for you and will give you energy. But that will take time, and I tell you this so that you have patience. For now, it is a matter of closing the drama and illusion of the ideal world. But it will take weeks because it includes the retrogradation of Mercury and Venus that already give you ideas in Aries to move forward until the moment when they will go backwards to continue with the idealization. In reality, with the meeting of planets in Pisces this March, you can use this moment to review what you really want, to nourish and create. That is your strong point. Only imagining an ideal world or love is useful so that you fill yourself with strength and your heart responds with generosity and expressiveness. The key is in the discipline between imagining and listening to the opinions of others because of the difficult dialogue between Saturn and Jupiter. This means establishing emotional discipline, maturity in the face of circumstances, because you will have the strength to act later, since the group of planets will eventually advance to Aries. In any case, the presence of Mars in Cancer will strengthen the effect of the eclipses, pushing everyone to protect what has been gained. Above all, it brings an energy of restlessness and anger at the changes that are being imposed. Let's consider that observable facts have an origin in the planetary movements of the solar system. Astrological language fortunately explains why these things happen. On the full moon, the 14th, there is a lunar eclipse in Virgo within the series of eclipses that will occur on the axis of Cervix, which will remain in effect until 2027. Therefore, changes will be imposed in the energy field that will bring us to the awareness that we are part of the whole and that we advance much more and faster as a team. In the middle of the eclipses, the sun enters Aries, and with it, spring begins, which will inspire you new ideas that will feed your daily work. New and old relationships will come into your life so that you can reestablish important connections and so that you value how far you have come professionally. The point is that you recognize that you can transform and improve your performance. It is the solar eclipse with the new moon on the 29th in Aries that will bring all that effort to you so that you can gather everything you have learned and changed so far, which will bring new proposals from you for everyone. Be calm to share them. Think carefully about the project, what you would gain, and how you can approach it. But wait until next month when the retrogrades have concluded, and so you can have success and more clarity. We are still in a process. Nothing is definitive. Be prepared to change methods and objectives. Uranus in Taurus has been bringing you proposals and groups that surprise you. Wait for everything to settle. In addition, Neptune enters Aries on the 31st of the month. For the first time, you will be able to see something of what it proposes. But it is not until the beginning of next year that you will really be able to see what will definitely inspire you. Patience. Virgo, preparing for a transformation is very important this month. Everything will require an ability to adapt, which is easier said or asked for than done. I understand this perfectly, but your mutable self will help you. For now, put aside the need for analysis and perfectionism and allow yourself to dream what you want. The advance of the group of planets in Pisces, a water sign, to Aries, a fire sign, reproduces the most spiritually complex decision, which consists of the decision to overcome drama, depression, and despair, also fear, and act. Now it is not about dealing with papers or drawers as usual, but about allowing yourself to move with faith towards the new and the better. Trying will be very important. This process will be repeated by Mercury and Venus because they begin their retrograde periods with a difference of days. They advance to Aries only to return to Pisces. This will impose confusion because our thoughts and desires would lead us to the dramas we are trying to overcome. The essential thing is to recognize what is important, to preserve, for example, pure love, the ideal or art that inspires, the politics that serves everyone more than the individual. Yes, it is a requirement of the ideal, but it's really a test of character. If we want it to achieve something permanent, it is too big, it confuses and even deceives. It is only an ideal for us to move towards it with commitment and discipline. It is not a concrete reality that can be established as we imagine it. Steps that are taken are steps that are important towards improvement, even if it's not as perfect as you would like it. I mention discipline because Saturn in Pisces aspires to put emotional order, but Jupiter offers dispersion, multiple possibilities, and encourages light conversations that distract us. You cannot avoid them, but you can limit them. Listening is important to understand, but not all the time because it confuses. Also, to isolate yourself would not be possible. Above all, because we realize that even when we are alone, we are not on our own. The presence of Mars in Cancer, which has imposed a deep review of what gives us security and that we had already settled into, is bringing new circumstances to daily life that demand action, not only to defend what we have gained, but to understand new tasks that will give us security again over time. It is a fight that will take time. Do not despair. In addition, Mars strengthens the lunar eclipse in your sign on the full moon of the 14th. This is precisely why I tell you that for now you will have to leave behind the demands and obsessions so that you can focus on dreaming, loving, and creating, which is not the same as analyzing until exhaustion. With the advance of the Sun to Aries, which begins spring, we have more energy to act, but in reality, Mars in Cancer continues to demand greater attention to what gives us security and protects our interests. In the lack of coherence, it imposes an inexplicable anger that can only be channeled through the body. So, a physical discipline that allows to use the excess emotional energy will be necessary. Almost at the end of the month, the second eclipse of the season occurs on the 29th. It is also the last eclipse of the Aries Libra series. In theory, we should have learned that the most important thing is to value the capacity for action and courage rather than conformity to the established order. With this, it will be clear that in the face of the circumstances, there is a need for change, for adaptation, but it will not be easy either, and resistance must be directed towards what is useful. Not everything is bad, nor everything is good. We really have to think from the individual, family, social, national, and global perspective. Of course, it is complex, and there will be no certain answers nor concrete facts, only a clear order change. If Pluto has already Aquarius, the social and political directive towards technology and science implies a renewal with no turning back. Uranus, with surprises, continues in Taurus, even allowing walks and skiing next to erupting volcanoes. Neptune will join them in Aries on the 31st for the first time in 165 years, giving rise to new inspirations and conquests. We hope that it will be a heroic journey of the spirit and not the idealization of disputes that only bring destruction and anger. Libra, March brings a renewal of perspective on partnerships and relationships, as well as in the work environment. We have been seeing this for a few months now, culmination of this process, especially because the group of planets in the water sign, Pisces, focuses you on your daily work tasks, on matters with employees, and perhaps on caring for your pets. However, it is also a task of reviewing your routines that leads you to health, which does not have to be perfect or ideal, but functional, so everything involves an order or discipline that limits both what supports you and what is not very helpful. Temptations and evasions clearly affect your personal performance. You do not have to say no to everything, but you also do not have to accept everything that comes, no matter how magical or good it seems. It is within these energies that they propose something fabulous to you, which is supposed to solve all your problems in this area. But of course, they are a fantasy, an ideal, a collection of assumptions that are frankly impossible to materialize. And of course, I must warn you about possible frauds and deceptions. So what remains is to be inspired by the ideal. That is to say, we are going to go towards what we imagine, managing the work on some aspects, those that are humanly possible. But of course, it is not necessary to feel bad or depressed because they are not all realized. From this emotional force, you have to separate yourself with courage to then focus on your partner or associations, since they will present new situations that can challenge you to be brave and know that you are going towards the light, even if for now you only see the glow. We are facing the imminent beginning of a new cycle of Saturn and Neptune in Aries. This cycle demands limiting fantasies and drama, but of course giving a sense of direction to the actions that we undertake from now on. They will have to do it with the idea of illuminating who we truly are. The mission that brought us to this world, it should not be complex or grandiose to feed our being, but difficult enough for us to understand life from a different perspective that is more important to us as individuals. The above supposes being better people, braver, non-violent, more direct, non-aggressive, more spiritual, not confused. We all really know how we can be better people. The point is to recognize it and not hide behind complaints, depression, impatience, or anger. The difficult dialogue between Jupiter in Gemini and Saturn in Pisces must be resolved because they cannot ignore each other. For now, what Jupiter proposes is that you see more people, multiply your contacts, and listen to new proposals. That is not difficult for you. The complex thing is that you contain the confusion and the emotionally charged situations you could be in, and there are not enough resources, time, or space to resolve them. Do what you can, and that is fine. A little attention to everyone, and especially to yourself, is the most important thing. Don't demand that you give everything to others and nothing to yourself. That is not possible or healthy in the medium term. When the group of planets in Aries enters the seventh house, they come to bring you excitement and inspiration. But as I explained, they will return to Pisces. First, it will be Mercury and Venus. There will return situations, relationships that you thought were concluded, but really there are pending issues. With some you will close, and with others you can try again from greater experience. Then, on the last day of the month, Neptune enters Aries for the first time, and there the challenge is not to lead you to idealize your relationship as someone divine when they are really a human being. The best thing would be to get involved with a spiritual and personal practice so you correctly put the energy into a higher being and you could see the partner with more realism. It's really about you being more spiritual in your relationship, which means that you respect every person you relate with from your own divinity and that the other is a spark of the divinity as well. And both are on a spiritual journey trying to fill their being with light. Mars is mobilizing your professional and social area. Some situations require action, really reviewing what is useful, what ensures your professional performance, and others are frankly obsolete. It's time to see which ones apply. Don't cling to the old procedures, even if they are safe. The first period of eclipses of 2025 begins with the full moon on 14th with the lunar eclipse in Virgo. Even if you are afraid of what will happen, have confidence in divinity, in the divinity, in your capacity to serve, and in your knowledge, because you will get ahead. The eclipses on the Virgo-Pisces axis will lead you to consider whether what you offer and receive in the workplace is sufficiently taken care of, or you need more dedication and less judgment with the sun moving into Aries, which marks the beginning of spring. You will focus on the relationships I was mentioning, try to be brave and undertake a new way of relating. Even the solar eclipse on the new moon on the 29th in Aries means a new situation. There is no way to stop it. What you can do is embrace the change and be brave to see what really and what is not. Scorpio, to face the fight between the water element and the advance of the planets to the fire element in Aries, you have to leave behind resentment and emotional obsessions that would not let you advance in the work area and in your health routines. So that with the energy of fire, you undertake a new conquest and recover your energy. Of course, it is not time to hold on to the wound, however strong it may be, but to forgive what happened within you. Do not wear yourself out in revenge or getting even plans. Extract wisdom from what happened. There is still work to be done. The group of planets in Pisces brings you a situation full of magic that can happen in the area of love and children. What appears in relation to your desires and loves is so great that it seems like a movie opportunity. Here, what is appropriate is to fill the soul with a loving force in case it presents itself. If it is with your children that you have to resolve something, there is no way to know clearly what is happening. But you can focus all the energy, which is enormous, in a creative process with them and in yourself. If you encourage this, the development, you will achieve something extraordinary. Everything depends on the discipline and ability you have to incorporate new ideas and persevere in the development plan. Many options and ideas will be presented, but the essential thing is that you balance them with knowing how to listen and at the same time filter out the excess so that it does not confuse you more than necessary. Once the planets are grouped in Aries, you will feel more focused in the work area for a few days because Mercury and Venus give you their support. But both will return to Pisces so that you recover your compassion, renewed feelings, and faith in the extraordinary. Not for it to happen, but for it to inspire you. Even on the last day of the month, when Neptune enters Aries for the first time, you will find yourself struggling between the ideal and the emotion that takes you back to the past, wishing for everything to remain as it was. And it will be for a while, but change will be imposed and it will have to be organized when Saturn enters Aries. Be ready for change. You already know that freedoms are gained as Uranus has proposed to you, and at the same time, life is understood from new perspectives. In addition, Pluto in Aquarius brings to your home a transformation to the systemic loyalties that you serve, meaning that it will not be useful for you to blindly follow family guidelines, given the current circumstances. It is not about discarding everything you have learned, but rather understanding from a mature position the teachings of your ancestors, recognizing that they also went through difficult times but did the best they could, just as you will do in the years to come. Your ruling planet Mars, still in Cancer, makes you yearn for travel, relationships with foreigners or other countries to find the love and desire that this period of Pisces offers you. And if it is great, it is precisely Mars who brings you the possibility of seeing reality, in the sense of paying attention to what is certain and what is obsessive. Take advantage of this to propose actions that allows you to see the difference. On the 14th, with the full moon, there is a lunar eclipse in Virgo, which will reinforce the change in your groups, associations, and above all, in your hopes. There is no way to stop the transformations. That is how eclipses are. It is certain that you will not feel like attending to them or analyzing them in detail, especially because of the fantastic alignment that is already in Pisces, and that supposes an ideal
with which you might not be willing to negotiate. Merging with the ideal is not to disappear, but to inspire you to continue with the challenges that having such an amount of energy at your fingertip means. With the sun moving into Aries, which marks the beginning of spring, you will be invited to get involved with work and also with your physical routine. Especially in this second area, do not overdo it. Follow your doctor's instructions carefully and focus on your work. Circumstances will change in any case, especially due to the solar eclipse on the new moon on the 29th. Prepare yourself to face the new circumstances. Yes, you can. Sagittarius, the advance of the planets from Pisces to Aries, with its various periods of entrances, retrogrades, and returns, it brings an effort that spiritually supposes leaving behind the apathy and the drama, the victimization, to integrate into your daily life the spirituality that is not the same as a philosophy or a way of thinking, but a recognition of the simple spiritual lesson that you must integrate into your life from now on. We are talking first of Mercury and Venus, which will advance to Aries and then return to Pisces, seeking to clear thoughts and desires that are clouded and confused as immovable realities. Clarify as much as possible if they are illusions or lies. Do not let go of compassion for yourself, even if you find that you have wrapped yourself in an ideal impossible to materialize. Neptune enters Aries on the 31st, still emphasizing the spiritual ideal that you will follow later, at least bringing clarity on that subject from now until October, when it returns to Pisces. Being spiritual and acting, which is typical of Aries, is not the same as being spiritual and praying, which is typical of Pisces. Finally, Saturn will enter Aries at the end of May, also for a few months, when it will be clear that a method must be considered to direct all this energy and not get involved in anger or other people's fights, no matter how sensible they may seem. In addition, Saturn is in a difficult dialogue with Jupiter, which multiplies ideas, communications, and proposals without any sense of order, which further confuses what is supposed to be reality. There is no way to stop the multiplicity of visions. They all explain a point of view, a way of understanding reality, but they are not the truth. That is still far from being clarified. Even if your partner proposes something to you, listen carefully, but it is possible that not everything that is said is true or complete. The truth is that there are many implicit things that are hidden from the situation for now. Even the intermittent return of the planets to Pisces disrupts projects and plans at home. They do, however, transform the circumstances of those who live at home, the country, and the relationships that are the result of ancestral connections. First, you have to review which people and situations are returning, some to close them and others to give them another opportunity. Then seal the artistic or loving project that involves creating with the water energy that is available to inspire you. Accept that an important cycle is closing in the resources that you share with your partners or spouse, which Mars has put in its place. Finish what is pending and decide that you have to cut ties with partnerships that have already given of themselves. With the full moon on the 14th, there is a lunar eclipse in Virgo, which will bring new professional challenges. Your professional and social development will have changes in the way you approach them. So much analysis, details, obsessions, and perfectionism will not be necessary. Rather, it is about understanding that being kind and compassionate is the focus that corresponds to you and to everyone in general. With the advance of the sun into Aries, which marks the beginning of spring, we find that a new era of enthusiasm begins, but although you will find contradictory energies that we have already explained. For now, there is confusion. It is true, but it will become clearer later. Be patient. With the solar eclipse of the new moon on the 29th, the last eclipse in Aries occurs, which brought lessons to your creativity and your loves. The commitment to attend to and sort out the changes that this celestial event teaches us is here. There is still the task to learn the lesson of what hurt us and forgiving those who caused it, because in reality it was about integrating the lesson of untimely action. We will have the opportunity to act again, hopefully with intelligence and courage, not with fear or anger. Pluto in Aquarius brings a new way of thinking for you, and although it is just beginning, its presence is so strong that you are not longer comfortable with the old way of thinking or with the usual content. Get ready to learn new subjects and, above all, new methods that allow you to communicate new ideas with the power of reasoning. As if that were not enough, you will still receive new surprises at work. Do not despair or cling on. It is uncomfortable, but it is for the best. Capricorn, the advance of the group of planets in Pisces towards Aries is hard and nebulous, something that you don't really enjoy because you can understand the ambiguous, the full of confusion, but not what is half true. It is really for you to imagine something spectacular, creative, imaginative, and to be ready to transmit it in an artistic, idealistic, or loving way. The advance will not be just for one day. It actually covers the whole year because Mercury and Venus move first towards Aries, making you review your relationships at home with ancestors and past loves. Then they return towards Pisces, awakening feelings, resentments, and confusion about what they propose and offer. Give space to doubt and be ready to live in it until time passes and you can distinguish a little more than what is true and what is not. Then Neptune advances, provoking in you new ideals regarding your origin, ancestors, and native country. It is about imagining how you could act from your perspective, looking for a more inspiring vision without forgetting that Neptune acts like a tsunami and first sweeps everything away and then gives time to rebuild with what is left. It is certainly not an easy prospect, but the tides do not stop either. You wait until everything returns to its course. That is when you can act. Something will be attempted with Saturn when it enters Aries. That will be at the end of May, and I say attempt because Neptune and Saturn will return to Pisces once again and will review what we imagine, what is told to us to create together later a new social proposal which will face the need for growth and security. That Jupiter will propose later. For now, Mars in Cancer continues to insist that with your partnership and relationships, you cut out drama and resentment, being kinder and more sensitive with what you say. Being loving is one thing, promising the sky and the stars is another level of intensity. Just remember that what you say will mean a commitment later on. That is, pay close attention because the illusion can go away and the obligations will remain. On the full moon of the 14th, there is a lunar eclipse in Virgo, which will make you see new ways of understanding the world. It will bring new experiences with people or places abroad. It is not the first time. Since September, new situations began to arise. The process will extend until 2027 when you finally settle or assimilate everything that these situations have to teach you. With the advance of the sun to Aries, which begins spring, it is always a challenge for you because you feel that moving forward is improvised, that there is not enough planning, and this occasion is no different. But on the contrary, you will observe how people move forward and then go back on their steps. Even if you are the one who tries, do not get overwhelmed and learn from the attempt. The truth is that you can take advantage of the experience so that when it happens again, you do it better. With the solar eclipse, the 29th, the last eclipse in Aries occurs, which means the end of a learning process in the axis of relationships, emphasizing action over agreement. We learn that giving in too much brought more problems than acting bravely, putting a stop to situations. Now we have to deal with the consequences and face the doubts that everything explained above implies. Later, when Uranus in Taurus changes sign, entering Gemini for the first time from July to November, you will be seeking new technologies, communications, and mobility, which will bring work and create greater communication. Since Pluto entered Aquarius in the area of your assets and values, you are forced to think of new ways to create resources and new sources of income with the advances of Uranus and Neptune. Even if they are temporary for now, you will have a new way to see and create from your home, counting on the support of those who live with you. Stay tuned. Aquarius, since Pluto entered your sign, you have the opportunity and obligation to transform who you are. Although you still have to face the change of emphasis on the water element by the planets in Pisces towards the fire element when the planets advance to Aries. It is about closing the confusion of values you have, seeking to be more assertive with your communication without being aggressive or violent. You will try several times depending on the corresponding planetary movement. That is to say that first your thoughts and loves will be questioned because you will be involved in an economic confusion which will be difficult to clarify, even if you get angry. It may also be that you are offered the business of your life, which may turn out to be much less than what they tell you for now. And what will remain will only be a great commitment that will not really leave the profits it promises. The best expression of this energy is to value the compassion with which you will have to move later. This means that although intelligence is what predominates, considering your own feelings and those of others will give you strength and human wisdom. This will prevent you from tyrannizing yourself and others. Then Neptune will enter Aries, strengthening your political opinions and social ideals, which will also be adjusted from now on, because Uranus will also change signs and bring an emphasis on communication and creative technology. Later, Saturn will also bring an exercise in discipline, in communication, meaning that what you imagine must be organized and sensible rather than idealistic in order to be understood by others, especially those who live near you, and for your ideas to be accepted. You must be patient, wise, and brave, not aggressive and bossy. In the intense dialogue that emotions and thoughts maintain due to the square of Jupiter and Saturn, you must give space to the ideas and communications that are requested of you, as well as containment of feelings, yours and others. It is important to integrate them, not just fall into gossip or drama. With the long passage of Mars in Cancer, you have faced various work issues and even digestive problems. We suggest that you attend to them regularly by cutting out what hurts you, and especially the dramas and resentments that make situations at work unpleasant due to complaints or clinging to the old way of working. On the full moon of the 14th, there is a lunar eclipse in Virgo, which moves the investments that you share with partners and loved ones, or business-wise. It is difficult, but not impossible for you to put things in order, although it will not be of your interest especially because the offer of great profits is on the negotiating table. Take your time to decide to take the final step. Things are not entirely clear for now. With the advance of the sun to Aries, which marks the beginning of spring, you will feel that it is time to take the plunge, but nothing around you is stable. Movements are coming that exceed your capacity for anticipation. Be careful about making permanent decisions. Only obligation will remain. The solar eclipse on the new moon of the 29th is the last one in the Aries sign, in the area of your brothers, cousins, and neighbors. You have experienced enough changes to know that for the last year things have been different, and that forces you to think in a different way. As I said, more idealistic, even spiritual. Recover your center and wait wisely until things are clearer. See you soon.